It's 7 o'clock, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would you please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Marcia, would you please call the roll?
Davis. Here. Flora. Here. Whitman. Here. Crane. Here. Quinn.
Right here.
Rothrock. Here. Schlesmacher.
Here.
Thomas. Here. Thank you.
All right. Before we get started this evening, I want to welcome everyone to our meeting. There will be opportunities if you have comments you want to make to council. There's an opportunity for comments that are not related to an agenda item on item number 5 on the agenda. And if you do have comments related to an agenda item, when that agenda item comes up, and I'll look out in the audience if you raise your hand if you'd like to make a comment. So there's opportunities for you to be engaged this evening. We have item number 1 is public hearings. We have one public hearing on the proposed division of the Rock Creek Redevelopment District. We'll begin by opening our public hearing. Ms. Smith, would you please provide an update?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This evening we're here to hold a public hearing on considering the separation of the Rock Creek Redevelopment or Rock Creek TIF District into 5 separate redevelopment districts. This is, as we've talked about over the last couple of months as this has moved its way through the committee process, this is really a housekeeping issue more than anything else. So let me try to provide a little background and history for those in the audience who may be interested in this, and then certainly we'll be available to answer any questions. But in 2006, the city established the Rock Creek Tax Increment Financing or Redevelopment District via Ordinance 1190, and then it was amended by Ordinance 1195. So that district contained approximately 71 acres of property and generally stretched, followed the Rock Creek floodplain from Lamar down through the Gateway site to Rowe Boulevard. The larger district was really created following a period of time when the FEMA floodplain maps had been revised and a significant amount of property that was not previously in a 100-year floodplain was put into that floodplain. And that seriously limits or impacts the redevelopment opportunities. And as that area encompassed the majority of Mission's Johnson Drive commercial corridor, it had significant and potential long-term impacts for our community. So the council at that time looked at the opportunity to create that very large TIF district and property in a floodplain statutorily allows for the creation of that TIF district, or met findings and allowed for that creation. So that larger district was created to potentially aid in redevelopment of areas that had been put in that 100-year floodplain in the early 2000s. When those ordinances were first adopted, the Rock Creek district, that larger district, included what we refer to as 4 redevelopment areas. So we sort of broke that up, and there was a map that's been included in your packet and in the information that was mailed to impacted property owners that showed those 4 areas or districts. And that was really just for us to kind of think about them logically as areas that might redevelop naturally together. So there really wasn't necessarily any magic to the lines drawn in those 4 districts. In 2009, the district was amended by Ordinance 11-1299 to include 5 redevelopment project areas. Areas 1, 3, and 4 remained as previously established, and within Area 2, a separate redevelopment project area, 2A, which included what is now the Capitol Federal property, was created. And that was done because at that time we negotiated a specific TIF project plan for the Capitol Federal property. So the way the process works, you establish the larger underlying district, and then as you have projects that arise within that district, each project must come forward and be considered as a project plan by the City Council and then potentially approved before there is any tax increment or incentive that would be provided to a property owner. So since 2009, there have been 5 separate or distinct areas within that larger district. As we have looked at particularly the amendments to the Gateway redevelopment agreement that were approved just a month or so ago, one of the things that we are looking at as we're moving towards construction and financing of this project was that the TIF Act provides that increment is computed on a district-wide basis. And that means that it looks at that entire 71 acres, and until that entire district is generating what's a positive increment, no increment can be paid out to any of the specific projects that may be approved within that area. So Capital Federal and Gateway are the only two approved TIF project plans within that larger district, and they would not be able to take advantage of the increment generated by their own projects, which is what is contemplated within the project plan, until that larger district was generating a positive increment, and it is not currently generating positive increment. Overall, the district is generating still a negative increment. So, as we looked at that, it really raised two issues or questions for us, and that is what was the fairest way to allocate those future incremental property tax revenues generated by the district between those project areas, and then potentially project areas 2 and 4 if there were to be additional projects that the council would approve in those areas. And then where we're using bonds, in this case special obligation bonds, to finance Gateway project costs, how do you effectively mitigate the risk to bondholders and be able to look at that positive increment generated just by their project alone. So in order to address those issues and to preserve the greatest amount of flexibility for the city going forward, it was the staff recommendation that the council proceed to split that existing Rock Creek district into 5 separate districts. So again, this is not creating a new TIF district. This is not imposing any sort of new or incremental tax on anyone within the district. It is simply taking those 5 project areas that were defined in the 2009 ordinance and creating 5 separate and distinct TIF districts. The only caveat to that is at some point in the process, the Wendy's property was moved and included in the Gateway district, and through this process, we're separating that back out and moving that back into district number 3. So when a city goes through the process of separating an existing TIF district, you have to go back through the same public hearing and notification process that you used when the district was originally created. So the county, the school district, and all the property owners and occupants within that district were notified of this potential action and of tonight's public hearing. So those notices went out, certified mail, return receipt requested. So we've reached that point this evening where we have the public hearing, and following the conclusion of the public hearing later on your agenda, the council will be asked to consider an ordinance which adopts certain findings and authorizes the separation of that Rock Creek redevelopment district into those 5 standalone districts. So I'd be happy to answer questions now or later.
All right. Do we want to open it up to the public at this time? Can you hear comments first? Okay, why don't we, is there any member of the public that has any questions on this issue, wants to make comment or ask questions? Yes, come forward, state your name and your city of residence, please.
My name is Kevin Smith. I live in Mission. I live in the Rock Creek development area in the proposed Zone 2. My questions were just going to be, I know this plan's been in place for a while. I just wanted to know if there are any specific plans now that are, giving you a reason to separate it up into smaller districts, if there's a proposed project for Zone 2, or if you have a timeline on when we could expect to see something.
So yes, as I mentioned, what's really driving this at this time is the amendment to the Gateway Development Agreement. So those are project plans, TIF project plans that have already been approved by the City Council, and that is in that specific project area, and then in 2A, which is the Capital Federal site. There are no other TIF project plans that are currently pending or that have been submitted for the city council consideration, and we don't have anything in the works, but again, that preserves the ability of property owners to at least bring forward and have that conversation with the city council. So there may be nothing that materializes over the life of that district, but there are still certainly redevelopment opportunities, particularly in the commercial areas that remain within that Rock Creek redevelopment district.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Any other members of, yes, please come forward, state your name and city of residence, please.
My name is Colette. I'm a member of Mission City. And the gentleman asked two of my questions. My third question is, how can those of us who live in one of these subdivided districts best follow the Rock Creek Development project in the individual districts? Can you recommend a committee, a meeting? Who do we actively follow now, since you mentioned that there were no specifics at this point in time? Thank you.
And I'll look to bond counsel, our bond counsel Gilmore Bell, to make sure I'm answering this correctly, but notice would need to be provided if a TIF project plan comes forward, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I like.
Gary Anderson, Gilmore and Bell, bond counsel for the city. So if a property owner or developer comes forward in areas 1, 2, or 3, a similar notice procedure would be followed. The city would adopt a resolution to call a public hearing on that proposed project plan. All of the property owners and occupants within that separate redevelopment district, assuming you move forward tonight, would be notified again by certified mail return receipt requested, plus there would be a published notice.
Any other questions? Does that answer your question, ma'am? Yes, please. Please come forward. So basically, you're going to get a notice if there's any activity in the district.
Well, I guess I want to just subdivide my question into, we appreciate getting the notice in the mail requiring the signature. I wasn't sure why I had to go to the post office and sign for something because I wasn't expecting any scary letters. So I appreciate that. We've all received scary letters, I'm sure. But the big division has been since '06, and then now we hear about the subdivisions, and I'm thinking that it's very possible that the next one we get in the mail will be drawings, before breaking ground. And that really was my question. How can those of us who live in the district follow it from as early on, or whatever's in the files now, as it progresses? So a little bit more of a specific question. Will be very informative to those of us who live
Yes.
here. Thank you.
Yes, I think I understand that question better, yes. So again, you will get that same certified notice, but there's a specific period of time that the public hearing is held that gives you that opportunity, and we don't move immediately from the discussion regarding the establishment of a TIF project plan or the consideration of a TIF project plan to final drawings. So it's hard to say because the project may or may not go through the planning commission. Oftentimes you will also receive notice and notification of issues that are going to be in front of our planning commission for consideration of those projects. But you will be months, if not years, ahead of the point in time in which someone is breaking ground on a project in that area, and you'll have that opportunity to do that. You can also certainly follow the Planning Commission and the City Council agendas on our website. Those are available, and you can look for projects there. That's another great way. And we also have a Mission Monthly newsletter that if you're not signed up for, you can receive, and that will kind of give you a preview of the issues and items that are coming forward for consideration. Yep. And if you'll see Ms. Randall, she'll be happy to get your contact information and make sure we get you on that list.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions from members of the public? Yes, please.
Sorry. So just one more question. Does the city intend to use eminent domain to take properties, or is it something where the property owners will have a say in whether or not their property is redeveloped?
Dan Gary Anderson, Gilmore and Bell. The legislature took away the power of eminent domain for economic development projects. You still have it for public projects, whether that be a street, a sewer, or stormwater, those types of things, but you do not currently have that power for economic development acquisition.
Any other questions from the public? All right, then questions from council. Pat?
I've got one.
Yep.
I was just curious specifically who looked at this, saw the problem, and came up with the solution to that problem.
It's a team effort.
It was a team
Was it?
effort. It really, this whole process has been very much a team effort, but I have to give a lot of credit to the staff at Gilmore and Bell for breaking this down and really giving us a path forward that was clear.
Very good. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing concerning the division of the Rock Creek Redevelopment District. The next step in this process is for council to consider an ordinance on this issue, and that ordinance will be considered under Finance and Administration Committee report as item 7A. All right, moving on, special presentations. We do have one special presentation, and this evening we have Emily. Will you introduce Kathy, please?
Yes, I'd love to. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. This is Kathy Stratman, our Payroll Benefits Specialist. We missed coming to you when she first started. Now she's a part of the family. But we figured what better time than right before open enrollment on Monday to bring her here. She's in the thick of things, so we thought the timing was great and wanted everyone to see her face. She's one of the behind-the-scenes folks that keeps us rolling. Kathy did join us in May this year, which seems incredible. She has a BA in Business and Human Resources and comes to us with many years of really impressive experience in the human resources field in the private sector. Most recently, she worked for the Enterprise Group, offering contract payroll services for mostly medical and public safety entities. So before that engagement, she had the chance to work for the city of Gladstone in a temporary position, which gave her a taste of the public side of things, and we're really glad we did because we believe that's part of the attraction that led her our way, which is wonderful. She has been a tremendous help, especially of late as we've transitioned our employee evaluation system into their new software service, which was a lot of hiccups in the transition period. And she's just learned these people's names, and now she's figuring out how to translate their evaluation. So we're grateful to her. And then also we've been transitioning, as you know, to the electronic timekeeping system, and it's just been an incredible effort. And she's jumped in with both feet. So we wanted to give her thanks for that and let her introduce to you. So please. Hi. She's already got the gear. Thank you. Forward. Thank you. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item 3, issuance of notes and bonds. We do not have any this evening, so we'll move on to item number 4, the consent agenda. Our consent agenda does have 6 items on it this evening. Our council committees, they met on November 6th, and we fully discussed each of these items. And the committee agreed that the ones listed under our consent agenda were routine enough to be considered under one single motion. Several other items discussed at that committee, those committee meetings, will be presented under the committee reports later on in the agenda. If a council member or a member of the public wants an item removed from the consent agenda, this would be the time to make that request. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Mayor, I move the city council adopt the consent agenda as printed, items 4A through 4F.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, please call for the vote.
Davis.
Aye.
Schlesmacher.
Aye.
Flora.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Inman.
Aye.
Crane.
Aye.
Rothrock. Quinn.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, moving on to item 5, public comments. This is an opportunity for members of the public to comment or ask questions on anything that is not on the agenda this evening. Anybody have anything that they want to bring forward? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 6, action items from the Planning Commission. We don't have any of those this evening, so we're going on to item 7, committee reports. Councilmember Flora, will you please provide a report on our Finance and Administration Committee?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Finance and Administration Committee met on November 6th and considered a total of 10 items, including approval of our meeting minutes. The meeting included a presentation by the auditors and discussion of a draft 2020 legislative program. 5 of the action items from the meeting were approved on tonight's consent agenda. We have 2 remaining items from the Finance and Administration Committee for consideration tonight. The first is item 7A, ordinance dividing Rock Creek Redevelopment District. The Rock Creek Tax Increment Financing TIF District was established in 2006 and includes approximately 71 acres of property, which generally follows the Rock Creek floodplain from Road to Lamar. The district originally included 4 redevelopment areas within the district, but this was amended in 2009 to include 5 redevelopment areas. The TIF Act provides that increment is computed on a district-wide basis, which works when there is a single project area within a district or multiple project areas, all of which have a positive incremental assessed valuation. When some areas have a negative incremental assessed valuation, those areas with a positive increment are unable to be compensated until the entire district is generating positive increment. As we have amended the Gateway Redevelopment Agreement and considered the issuance of special obligation bonds for the project, it was determined that the current Rock Creek TIF district should be split into separate districts, including moving the Wendy's property that was originally in Project Area 1 to Project Area 3. All other areas will remain as they currently exist. A public hearing on this issue was held at the beginning of this meeting as required by state statute, and all owners and occupants of the district were notified of this via certified mail. The final step in this process is the adoption of an ordinance formally dividing the district. Mayor, I move the City Council adopt an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Mission, Kansas, making findings in dividing the Rock Creek Redevelopment District into 5 redevelopment districts pursuant to KSA 12-1770 et sec and amendments thereto.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none, please call for the vote.
Flora.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
Inman.
Aye.
Crane.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Schlesmacher.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Rothrock.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, our second item is item 7B, issuance of special obligation tax increment revenue bonds for the Gateway Project, Series 2019. At the November 6th special City Council meeting, Council approved a resolution authorizing the offering for sale of special obligation tax increment bonds in connection with the Gateway Project. The preliminary limited offering memorandum, PLOM, is anticipated to be posted by November 22nd, with bond pricing to be determined by the underwriters following Council's adoption of this proposed ordinance. All conditions preceding to pricing set by the underwriter for these bonds have been met, and bond closing is estimated to occur before the end of the year. Once the bonds are issued, the proceeds will be escrowed and will be distributed in accordance with the conditions preceding to bond proceeds distribution as outlined in the First Amendment to the Third Amended and Restated Redevelopment Agreement. These special obligation bonds are payable exclusively from revenues generated by the Gateway Project and are not backed by the full faith and credit of the city. The city is not responsible for the repayment of these bonds under any circumstances. Mayor, I move the City Council adopt an ordinance authorizing the issuance of special obligation tax increment revenue bonds, Gateway Project, Series 2019, in the maximum principal amount of $46 million of the City of Mission, Kansas, for the purpose of paying certain redevelopment project costs in connection with the Fourth Amended Tax Increment Financing Redevelopment Project Plan for for the Mission Gateway project, authorizing execution of certain other documents and making certain covenants with respect thereto.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none, please call for the vote.
Inman,
Aye.
Flora,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Thomas,
Aye.
Crane,
Aye.
Quinn,
Aye.
Rothrock,
Aye.
Schlesmacher.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Does that conclude your report?
That does conclude my report, thank you.
All right, next, Councilmember Thomas, will you please provide a report on the Community Development Committee, please?
Thank you, Mayor. The Community Development Committee also met on November 6th and discussed 9 items. These included approval of the committee minutes, presentations on the Adopt a Park program, and the amendment of the Gateway Final Site Development Plan. The committee discussed a marketing branding project, the current snow plan, and potential modifications to the Rock Creek Channel project design. There are 3 action items from the committee for consideration tonight. Item 7C is a resolution adopting the finding of fact regarding the structure at 5399 Martway. The structure at 5399 Martway, Mission Bowl, was damaged by a fire on April 3rd, 2015 and sustained extensive damage. Subsequent restoration of the structure has been stalled due to protracted litigation that was initiated not long after the fire occurred. During this time, the building has become exposed to the elements, leading to further deterioration. In accordance with state statutes, a written report from our building official was prepared and presented to the City Council outlining issues associated with the structure. This report was based on inspection of the building, which was conducted by Mission's building official and Consolidated Fire District Number 2. A copy of the report was sent to the owner with no response. Following presentation of the report to council, a resolution was adopted setting the public hearing for the purpose of taking testimony from any interested parties as to why the structure should not be condemned and ordered repaired or demolished. The public hearing was held on October 16th. At the conclusion of the public hearing, council approved a motion directing staff to develop findings of fact regarding this issue. This proposed resolution presents the findings of fact and includes the next steps to address and alleviate the current unsafe conditions of the structure. Following adoption of this resolution, the owner has 10 days to present a plan for the restoration or removal of the structure and 30 days to prosecute their plan. If no plan is presented or their work is not completed within 30 days, the city may take action to have the structure removed and costs billed to the property owner. If not paid, a lien will be placed on the property. Mayor, I move the City Council adopt the resolution finding that structure at 5399 Martway is unsafe and dangerous and directing that the structure be repaired or removed and the premises be made safe and secure.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none, please call for the vote.
Flora,
Aye.
Inman,
Aye.
Crane,
Aye.
Quinn,
Aye.
Rothrock,
Aye.
Schlesmacher,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And I do want to reiterate that even though there's no discussion going on now, at our November committee meetings, these were discussed in great detail. So, all right.
Item 7D is an ordinance amending notice requirements for code violations. The Community Development Department sometimes deals with repeat violators of the nuisance code, and these cases can be very challenging. Currently, city code requires that when a property owner is noticed for a nuisance violation, they are given 10 days to correct it. If they fail to do so within 10 days, the city can abate the nuisance and/or issue a citation. Usually the nuisance issue is addressed within 10 days, but there are times when the issue will develop again within a few weeks or months of the initial violation. Under the current code provision, staff is required to go back through the 10-day notice process before abating the nuisance or issuing a citation. This proposed ordinance would add a section of the code that essentially provides that if a second notice is given within a 12-month period of the first being issued, then the city is not required to give a 10-day notice period for the nuisance issue to be resolved. Instead, the city can move right to abatement. Mayor, I move the City Council adopt an ordinance adding Article 4 to Chapter 220 of the Municipal Code of Mission, Kansas, defining unlawful repeat nuisance violator and penalties therefor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none, please call for the vote.
Davis,
Aye.
Quinn,
Aye.
Rothrock,
Aye.
Inman,
Aye.
Flora,
Aye.
Crane,
Aye.
Thomas,
Aye.
Schlesmacher.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Last item. Item E, contract award for Mohawk Park design. Mission's Park and Recreation Master Plan underscores the goal of expanding and improving our park facilities. After several months of discussion and evaluation, the Parks, Recreation, and Tree Commission is recommending the addition of restroom facilities in Mohawk Park as the first capital project to be implemented from the master plan. The next step in implementing this plan is to bring the planning process down to the specific park level, which will provide an opportunity to take a comprehensive look at the amenities to be added over a longer-term horizon. The planning conceptual design process also provides the opportunity to get more specific feedback from neighbors and other stakeholders for the park. A request for proposals was prepared by staff and 3 responses were received. Of those responding, Confluence has been determined to be the lowest and most responsive proposal at a cost not to exceed $30,500. The scope of this project will include site analysis, public engagement, and preparation of refined concept plans and cost estimates. Mayor, I move the City Council approve a proposal from Confluence in an amount not to exceed $30,500 for conceptual park design and restroom design for Mohawk Park.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion.
I would just say it's a lot of money, and I know that we've spent a lot with our Parks Master Plan and stuff in the past. I'm really hoping, I know from our previous discussions, and we're going to trust your leadership on this one, that we can use this going forward to develop a plan for some of the other parks as well, at least a template. So we're hopefully not going out to spend $30,000 every time we want to design changes that we make to the park. So I think it's a good place to start, but I really hope that we can come away with some sort of template or framework we can use for these projects.
Yes, Hillary.
I agree with Councilmember Schlossmacher, and I'm excited that we are taking action to get the Master Parks Plan moving forward. This is really the first big step after essentially 3 years, so I'm really excited about that. But I also don't want to forget some other areas of the city, specifically Ward 1, and hope that we can visit some other parks in the months and years to come.
Any others? Yes? Oh, sorry. Solid.
I was just going to note that we were lucky enough to have both Penn and Celia come to our last Ward 4 ward meeting, and the members of Ward 4 who were there were enthusiastic about this process and really excited in particular about the opportunity for the community conversations in connection with the development of the park plan. So looking forward to it.
All right, seeing no further discussion, please call for the vote.
Thomas.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Schlosmacher.
Aye.
Rothrock.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
Crane.
Aye.
Inman.
Aye.
Flora.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, Mayor, that concludes my long report.
All right. That concludes item 7. Item 8, unfinished business. We don't have any unfinished business. We'll move into item 9, new business. And we do have one new business item on tonight's agenda. That is the change in dates for our January council meetings. Since our regular committee meetings fall on New Year's Day, we will need to move these to the second Wednesday in January, which would be January 8th. I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move the City Council move the regularly scheduled January City Council committee meetings to Wednesday, January 8th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Please call for the vote.
Davis.
Aye.
Schlosmacher.
Aye.
Rothrock.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
Flora.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Inman.
Aye.
Crane.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, moving on to item 10, comments from the City Council. This is an opportunity for City Council members to talk about anything they would like to share. First,
I would like to wish Ms. Laura Smith happy birthday.
yes, here, here.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes, Hillary.
I would like to recognize Council Member Pat Quinn, that guy over there, my fellow ward mate. Even though we do have another council meeting where there will be the passing of torch and I'm sure a more formal recognition, since this will be your last legislative council meeting, I just wanted to thank you for your mentorship. We don't always agree, but you're a fantastic human and I love getting
We
to know
agree
you.
on that.
Thank you for what you've done.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Solid.
Yeah, I just wanted to recognize Celia and Penn as our new members of staff, and I really much award for residents, and I think, like I said, it was very well received, so thank you for your time.
Debbie?
Just wanted to let you know, there are 4 of us going to the National League of Cities this week. That begins Wednesday morning in San Antonio. Likely has some really good discussion about public works projects, parks, a variety of things. In fact, one option that we are taking forward is one of our planning commissioners put forth some information on something called, it's a concrete process where it's transforming cement into a mineral so you don't have the carbon release. And we get to actually take the information that we gathered on that and take it to my Energy, Environment, Natural Resource Steering Committee. So some great things happen here at the local level, but we want to shine at the national level.
Anybody else? All right, moving on to item 11, Mayor's Report. I wanted to mention that Shawnee Mission School District is going through a process, and they've had, I guess you call them open houses, and I think 4 council members were there, 5. And they headed up to Shawnee Mission North, and what it was about was Shawnee Mission evaluated, among other things, how it impacts the city of Mission, their grade schools, and looking to the next rebuilds of the grade schools. So they had a criteria list, and they went through their list, and Rushton ended up being at the top of that list for rebuild. So they're taking that information out. They're getting public input. And like I said, there were 5 council people there, myself. So, and we obviously are very enthusiastic about the opportunity for Rushton to be rebuilt. There were 3 elementary schools that made that initial. They have a bond issue. Their next bond issue is either in 2020 or 2021. They don't know yet, but their initial plan is to have 3 grade schools rebuilt, with Rushton being one of them. So I'm asking you to keep that on your radar. If you have a chance to talk to people about it, we need to get enthusiasm in our community. Reach out to our school board members. Let them know that this is something we have a big interest in. I communicated with Christy, the principal at Rushton, Dr. Fulton, the superintendent, our school board representative, Sarah, and she got reelected, and so I think this is really a fantastic thing that could be happening in our community. The council of the Northeast area, the city's council of mayors, we meet on a monthly basis, and we received administrators received a letter from a lobbyist in Topeka. His name is Stuart Little. It's not the mouse. But he is a 20-year veteran of Topeka, and he has been lobbying for Merriam, Lenexa, Shawnee School District. He has a lot of healthcare stuff. And Lenexa, the Lenexa agreement is terminating, and he has capacity to add some municipalities. So he approached the Northeast cities about creating a coalition and having him lobby in Topeka on our behalf. So the mayors met last Friday, and we invited him to come over. He and his associate came over and kind of presented his plan, what he thought. And basically, he was talking about a year-long lobbying agreement. So during the session end, so January 1 to December 31, whatever cities wanted to get together, like I say, Marion currently uses him. And in the discussions, I believe that Prairie Village and I think Roland Park, and there's somebody else, I can't remember who it is now, well, Merriam. So there were a number of cities that had an interest, and he said, I can take all of you who want to do this, or I can just take a portion of you and lobby on your behalf. And what he would do is he would provide a weekly report. He would come to council 3 times, beginning of the session, middle of the session, end of the session, be available to ask questions, and then his reporting would be targeted towards issues that we have directly impact us. Whereas sometimes the League of Kansas Municipalities information is broad-based, this would be narrowly focused. And his proposed fee is $1 per person in the city. So that would be like a $9,400 roughly, our population for a years-long lobbying contract. It is within Laura's approval power to do this, but I I wanted to get a consensus from the council, governing body, if you thought that was a worthwhile thing. My feeling was, let's do it for a year. Let's see if it has value. Currently, we rely on the league. We rely on, I know the council of mayors, the bigger group uses the Overland Park lobbyist comes. And then the bigger cities sometimes let us know if something's going on. But this would be, I guess, targeted to the smaller cities and their issues. So is this something that the governing body thinks we could do for a year and see how it works and evaluate?
Just could you give an example of what support they're providing? I mean, an issue, can you just give an example of an issue?
Well, I mean, you've got the dark store theory, and there could be constitutional amendments coming up. We have a whole legislative platform that they would watch for us. They would be at the table when municipal issues are discussed, and would be looking out for our interests.
What other cities have decided to do this?
I think, again, nobody's committed. I mean, he wants a reply back by the 2nd of December. So we got the information last Friday. We're all going to our councils, seeing if there's an interest. I believe Prairie Village was leaning towards it. Merriam is doing it. Overland Park is leaning towards it, but they have to get their governing body to buy in. Some of the smaller, like Westwood Hills wasn't interested. Fairway was thinking about it. So again, there was some interest. There's at least 4 cities that expressed an interest.
Mayor, has he been doing that before?
Yes, he's a 20-year vet of lobbying. He's got a PhD.
I mean, for what cities was it?
Merriam, Lenexa.
He's already been doing it.
Yeah. So he's been doing Merriam for a number of years. Lenexa, he's been doing a number of years, but that contract is expiring, and he's looking to pick up municipal business. He's got Charter Mission School District, and he's got a consortium of health industry clients. I can certainly share. I've got his information here. Yes, Hillary.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in exploring it. I am curious, what cities would end up signing on board, and then also just maybe looking at, his company and just a little bit more information about him personally and his background.
Okay. And how would, so we could,
Could this be brought through one of our committees?
well, he would like to have a, December 2nd, he would like to
December
have.
2nd.
Yeah, December 2nd, because the session starts in January, so he wants to know what he has capacity, how much of his capacity he's eaten, how much more business he needs to provide us.
What budget item would this come out of? Legislative?
We'll have to look at that.
I'd have to look at that,
Yeah.
I don't have a specific
Yes,
budget.
Solid.
Do we know why Linux is not renewing and how Merriam's thoughts about this work?
Marion likes him a lot. They're going to continue with him. Lenexa, they want to expand that lobbying front to be a bigger marketing, kind of a bigger brush. And he's basically a lobbyist. So he can't provide. There are 2 full-time employees in his business, little government relations, and then he hires 2 interns for the session. So he's got a 4-person shop, basically. And Lenexa is a big city, and they want to broaden what this entity does, and so he can't provide the service that they're going to do.
So in terms of what kinds of issues you'd be lobbying for, is that something that you would be discussing with your council of mayors? And,
Right.
having a
Well,
consensus on what
so-
you'd be going after?
When you're lobbying, there's kind of to me, there's 2 fronts. There's offensive, that's introduction of bills or being proactive on issues, and there's defense, which is making sure there's not legislation introduced that negatively impacts our entity. So I don't think the city of Mission has anything that we're going to introduce, but there are issues that we're concerned about. We want to make sure that we are aware of and be able to weigh in on. And he would provide, if he gave us notice that there was an issue coming up, he was letting know where it is, when it is, then we could tell him as a coalition, as the Northeast cities, that we want him to take his position one way or another, and he would do that on our behalf. The one issue we talked about was what if there is a disagreement among the coalition, and that could happen.
But he's not going to be representing the coalition,
Yes.
he's representing individual cities.
No, it'd be the coalition.
Really?
Yeah, it would be the coalition. And now, we should have similar interests, right? What is bad for the city of Mission is probably going to be bad for the city of Merriam or the city of Roland Park. So in theory, we all have a similar interest. Now, he has other clients. He has healthcare clients, he has school district, and if there is a conflict, then he is required to tell us that there is a conflict with another client, and then we are free then to say, okay, well, you're not going to work on this issue for us, and we take a different tack.
I also believe, Mayor, just in the
Yep.
brief conversation that I had with Mr. Little, that he did indicate that he would, if there were members of the coalition that did not support a particular position, that he would certainly make that clear in his lobbying efforts. So it would not be a blanket provision in that regard.
Are there current liability issues with him, no legal issues against him, or, I mean, we've done research on that. Do we have a website or something we could look at, anybody he's represented that we could see some background on?
We're talking about, well, I don't know how you, he has to be a registered lobbyist. He has to be a lobbyist in good standing, which means he has to abide by all the state rules regarding lobbying. So, other than that, I mean, I don't know how to investigate him, I guess. But he's been a speaker for 20 years, and he has a good reputation.
And there's no idea that there's any, I mean, we have legal protections if anything goes awry. Is that,
Protections against what?
well, I don't totally understand exactly what he's representing the city, that the League of Municipalities hasn't done with us.
I mean,
If you're supporting,
you can rely on the league. That's one tact you can take. That's one avenue you can take. And you can rely on
proactive, right?
right. And you can rely on the league, and the league represents all the cities in Kansas. This would give us a more focus. So when the league, they have a weekly bulletin, right? And they have a weekly conference call, but they're looking out for all the cities. This would be cities in the same area. Hopefully we have the same interest, right, and the same mindset of things. So it would be more focused to us. Now, I don't know. I mean, what I'm proposing is let's try it for 1 year. It's a one-year contract. If we don't find value in it, then we do something different. And if you guys don't want to do it, that's fine too. I mean, yes.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I just had one question
Yep.
about the coalition, because it sounds like some of the Northeast Johnson County group of mayors are interested, some are not.
Right.
So in terms of who's driving the conversation, what we want him to do, will it be driven by those who are actually paying for his services?
Yes.
Or, okay,
Yes.
yeah, I think it's a good idea.
And the thing we're going to have to kind of work through the infrastructure of is how does this coalition work?
Yeah.
Is it everybody gets one vote? Is it vote based by population?
Right.
Because Prairie Village mentioned, well, we have 20,000 people and we should get 20,000, whatever percent that is. So we don't know, because this is kind of a new concept, and so we're still trying to figure out how it's going to work. But I guess my question to you is this something we want to try to pursue? Is there enough consensus to continue talking with the other mayors who are going to do it, and then with Mr. Little and go ahead and enter into the contract? So
Could I ask
Yep.
the city administrator how you feel about it? I don't want to put you on the spot here with the
No,
mayor.
No, that's fine.
I'm
That's fine.
I'm wondering if we could just contact Mr. Little and see if he could hold off on an answer until the 8th of December,
Okay.
and that you could send out, because I know, I was trying to just scroll through it, I know that we have a proposal
Yep.
from Mr. Little that could be shared that's a little more specific in terms of the scope of work, and then gives his client list, and we can circulate that. And if he's not able to do that, I mean, I'm happy to make that call tomorrow and find that out, if we can just have a little bit more time to review the services that would be provided. I think there's some real value to having someone who can have a more consistent presence in Topeka for us on issues, but.
Okay. Well, I think that's a good idea.
So wait till the 8th and discuss it at committee, and then give you guys the background information that he's given us.
And I think if it can't wait for some reason, then trust, like you said, it's under board's authority, and say trust staff's recommendation on how to proceed.
All right. All right. Well, we'll give you the information at the committee meeting anyway. And then, okay.
Mayor?
Yes.
I have one more thing to add to council comments that I
Okay.
forgot.
I'm sorry, it's too late.
The Mission Family Adoption Committee is still accepting non-perishable food items and monetary donations to deliver during our Thanksgiving baskets on Monday. So if you're in the area, you feel like giving, or in the area on Monday, you can come and help volunteer at 8 a.m., 8:30 on Monday at the community center. That's all.
All right. Let's move on then to item 12, City Administrator's Report.
Very quickly, I just have a long list. We are at that time of year, and there are all kinds of things that are happening this week and into the next couple of weeks that I want to make sure that everyone's aware of. So starting with Thursday, this week we have our Uplift Clothing and White Sock Drive at the Community Center. So bring some white socks on your way to Thanks for Seniors, which will also be held on Thursday at the Community Center. We have Coffee with the Cop this Friday at 8 a.m. at our Mission Hy-Vee. Councilmember Rothrock mentioned the Holiday Adoption Food Basket Assembly Monday, November 25th at 8 a.m. at the Community Center. Wednesday of next week, we have a City of Mission blood drive. It's really important to stop this time of year and just, if you're able to stop in and very conveniently donate some blood. We have, once you've indulged on turkey or whatever your food of choice might be on Thanksgiving Day, you can consider going to burn before the turkey and work some of that off in advance. Our offices will be closed for the Thanksgiving holiday on the 28th and the 29th. And then we start into a whole slew of other activities for the holidays, including holiday lights and festive sites on the 6th of December, and our Pearl Harbor Remembrance Ceremony on December 7th. And then once we get there, we'll have a whole nother list to roll out for December. So lots of exciting things, lots of ways to get involved and to give back in this great community. So we'll look forward to that.
All right. Moving on to item 13, executive session. We do have need for an executive session this evening for the preliminary discussion of the acquisition of real property. I would entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move the city council recess to executive session under the preliminary discussion of the acquisition of real property, exception KSA 754319B6. Also attending the meeting will be City Administrator Laura Smith and City Attorney Dave Harmon. The open meeting will resume in council chambers at 8:02. 8:07, excuse me, 8:07.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are in executive session. second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.